live, folks. We are live with Aastha. Say hello to Aastha. Say hi in the chat. Say hi in the chat. And Aastha, say hi to folks so we can also test the audio. Awesome. I'm just checking if the audio was working. You'll have to try once more. Sorry. Just say test. Yeah. There seems to be some issue again. I don't know what this is. Oh man, audio things. There's always something. Isn't audible? Not yet. All right. Yes, yes. Trying to figure that out. What I'm gonna do is play some free music on YouTube so I can see when my desktop audio is picked up. That's easier way to test. Yeah. So there's always some YouTube setting that works weirdly. All right. This is OBS though. This has nothing to do with YouTube. YouTube is like send me whatever audio, I'll put it out there. It's my OBS which is like I don't think we're gonna send that audio. Maybe not right now. That is super strange. What I'm gonna do is all right. Recording mic. We're on recording mic. Otherwise, I have a backup plan of just streaming directly from Zoom itself. Okay. No, I'm just trying this thing out. Just try speaking something. Nope. Still not working. Did that work, folks? Folks in the chat, let me know if that worked. If you could hear her. I could not see the meters move here. But I don't know if... Not yet. Oh. Come on, OBS. Why won't... It's something with Zoom always. Like, everything else works. Last night I was streaming gaming to test this out. To make sure. And it worked. It worked. It just worked just fine. And right now it's such a struggle suddenly. Okay. If I put you on stream, I can still hear you, but this should be on stream. That makes sense. Recording mic is on default. That makes sense. Not yet. Still not audible. Cool. So what I'm going to do is to make it faster, just directly try this on Zoom. And let me see if I can switch over. Okay, streaming key. URL. So much for like setting up OBS and all. Like, so OBS collects all the screen grab, zoom, audio, my audio, your audio, and all of that jazz, and makes a single thing out of it, like in a nice layout. If you can see on the stream thumbnail or something. And then it just makes it look nice and, make sure the audio levels are fine and everything. Effects. But right now it looks like I'll have to stop streaming from OBS. We'll be back in a second, folks. And we should be live. Let me check. if this has
Okay.
switched over.
All right. Better?
Yep, I think we are better. I'm gonna go into gallery, and there you go. I think that should work. I hope it doesn't stay
Awesome.
in this switching thing. That will be super weird. Oh, all
Oh,
right. We can at least hear each other.
perfect. Step one.
Hi, Asta. Finally, hello. How are you doing? Say hello to Asta, folks. Say hello to Asta and hit that like button. 40 people watching and still 9 likes. What is this business? Hit that like button. Hit that like button. It's working now. YouTube ने पोपट कर दिया आज सब.
Hey, you just said it wasn't YouTube's fault.
It wasn't YouTube's fault. I confirm that. It's
Hey, folks,
Catalina.
everyone.
It's Catalina audio. Yes, it's Apple. It's definitely Apple. And
Yes,
Catalina.
clear,
I can confirm that.
of
Uh,
course.
Aastha OP is happening in chat. People are saying hello to Aastha, and I'm super excited about today. This has been long pending. If you haven't checked our earlier conversation with Aastha, you should on the industry roundtable where we spoke about leadership. And at that time, since then, I wanted to get Aastha on, on and just have, just talk about her journey. And finally, we get to that today. So let's get started. And Manish Reddy, welcome to Citizens. Good to see you renew your membership again. So yeah, we're gonna get started, Asta. And my first question is, of course, like, how do you even get started with design? Like, what introduced you to design?
What introduced me? Yeah, it's such a long story but I'll say it in a short way. So I started my career journey many, many years ago, right? Like 20 years ago at this point. And design, the kind of design that I do, UX design, wasn't really a thing back then. But I do remember I was in high school. I really liked computer science. I really liked physics and math, but I didn't like chemistry. So I just felt like I wanted to study something that
Right.
was physics, math, and computer science, but not chemistry. So engineering was not an option. At that
Right.
point, I thought I was going to study architecture. So I was studying for like entrance exams for architecture, but then someone told me about product industrial design. We used
Right.
to call it product design, but basically, that's what I studied. So I learned about it. I learned about fashion design. So for a little bit, I thought I wanted to learn fashion design. So I went to NIFT, Bangalore, for fashion design, switched to product design or industrial design in there while I was there. And even as I was studying, I realized I didn't want to do that. And at that point, I thought I wanted to do graphic design. So then, right after NIFT, I moved to California for grad school and studied graphic design. So it was completely because I didn't want to study chemistry anymore. That's how I found design.
Wow. I mean, what are the odds of somebody running away from something and finding something they like? That almost never happens.
I know, right? It was, you know what it was? It was, I really liked that for me, computer science and physics and math were all just logic based, but chemistry to me seemed
Mhm.
like it was about memorizing things, and I just
Mhm.
didn't like that. So I wanted to find a career path that was, in my mind, sciencey, but still not about memorizing stuff and, all of that that
It's
came with it.
interesting that that you bring that up. I suddenly that makes sense. You have to remember the weights, the molecular weights, not all formulas and reactions you can derive. You have to that makes sense. That
Exactly. I was not someone who would spend a lot of time in at school. So basically I would I'd love to understand things, but I wasn't
Mhm.
someone who would spend a lot of time memorizing stuff. So just it just did not work for me for that reason. But I'm so glad. I'm so glad because otherwise I wouldn't have found design. So it worked out really
So if you don't like chemistry, maybe you can be a designer. Maybe.
exactly. It's an option.
It's an
Yes.
option for sure. People are saying they love the Anurag, and Anurag is saying love the background though. Love the
Oh,
background.
thank you.
It's such a nice background. Like even in the last one, in the last recording we did, it was such an awesome background. And today we are live, which is much more exciting. Live is always awesome because you can talk to people. They're chilling with you. So I think it's
I
it's, it's the
know.
perfect way.
It's super super fun, but also it's nerve wracking because I'm always like, okay, what if I say something that I'm not supposed to say? So if I do, I apologize in advance. But let's just roll.
See, our easiest way out of that is we make the stream members only later on in retrospectives. Right, then you're gonna pay money to watch the blunders.
Yes.
That's how capitalism rolls. You pay money. All
Love
right.
it.
Welcome everyone. We are talking to. If you just joined in, we are talking to Aastha Gaur from Google. She's a senior manager at Google. We're starting to learn about her journey, and we just learned that she discovered design because she didn't like chemistry, so went on to explore fashion, then graphic, and then suddenly stumbling onto. So how did like specifically like what made you how did you get to know about UX? What was that moment like? And did you like ease into it, or were you like, oh, this makes complete sense, and I'm jumping like right into this?
Yeah, so when I was studying graphic design, so I came to California, I went to Cal Arts to study graphic design. And it's actually really interesting that I picked that school because that is the most traditional graphic design school there is. Like they are very much about print and typography. And I learned how to screen print posters myself and bind books together and like all of that, right? So it's not digital at all compared to some others like Art Center or
Mhm.
RISD or any of the others, right? So I was there, but then one thing that I realized was that I was more drawn towards. So they would give you a prompt, and then you
Mhm.
would make something with that prompt, right? Like come up with a project. I realized that a lot of my classmates were more on the artsy side, where they could just take a prompt and come up with this amazing piece of art.
Mhm.
For me, I would always try and find a use for it. So I would take a prompt and be like, okay, what can be a problem that I can solve through this? So just my brain just generally worked like that. So right out of Cal Arts, I started working at this design firm called Distinct here in LA, and they do design work only for nonprofits. So back then, they used to do like graphic design, branding, annual reports design, and marketing, fundraising. And
Mhm.
then I realized that no matter what we did, is because ultimately the game for nonprofits is donations, right?
Mhm.
So if the website flow for how a donation would happen did not work well, it just didn't matter how beautiful our design was.
Right.
So I went to and we had like 4 or 5 different clients. So I went to my boss and said, hey, what if we redesign their website, like one of our clients? And I said, what if we redesign their website? What if we pitch to the client that we need to redesign their website because it doesn't work well right now for donations? And my boss was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Do you know how to do that? And I was like, I don't know either, but I'm sure we can learn. So that's really how I got into UX design.
Wow.
So and this again, this is back when UX design still wasn't the term wasn't coined yet. It was called web design back then. But I
Right.
did have background in industrial design, right? So I feel like a lot of the skills from both industrial design and graphic design were transferable. So I
Mhm.
kind of just started thinking about, okay, how should this experience be
Mhm.
to allow for more donations, basically. And
Right.
then I self-taught, learned about UX design. It started becoming a field, just started learning as I was doing and kind of just went from there.
Wow. I mean, your life seems so like you just picked the most randomest things and suddenly discovered like the path to life. That's just crazy. Is it about like life giving these opportunities to you and you figuring them out, or you just going behind, or just being lucky, or like how do you perceive that? Like,
You know, and this is probably not great career advice, very honestly, but I have always just followed my heart and done things that just felt right in that moment. So when I was doing industrial design, I was working. I might have said this in the previous interview, or I don't remember the roundtable. I was working on the combination lever switches for Ford Fida, the
uh
car that I think the car flopped. It wasn't like super hit or anything, but I was working on like the wiper switch, like those switches, right? And I had designed something and they had built it, and there was this robotic arm that was switching it on and off, like constantly, like on off thousands of times, right? Because it has
wow.
to last for decades in a car. And I remember looking at that, just staring at it and realizing that I could not do this for the rest of my life. And that's when I was, crap, I need to do graphic design. I literally, this was in like some rural area of Gurgaon. I could not stay there for even another minute in during my internship. I just quit at like 2 p.m. or something, because usually they would have buses that would take us back to Delhi. I just quit right then, somehow found my way back to Delhi. And that was the day I decided that I had to do graphic design. So I'm just
Mhm.
telling you that as an example of I've never really planned stuff. It's more like it just doesn't feel right
Mhm.
anymore. And that's how I've like found like now if this doesn't feel right, what do I want to do? And really how it has happened is that I've found problems that I want to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So what is happening? Okay, fine. I'm designing beautiful branding for this nonprofit, but no one is able to donate money. So that's a problem that I need to solve. So that's why I say it's not the best career advice, because there was no plan. It's just been a series of just following my heart.
Well, I think in many parts of India, the planning is also the problem. That people want it so planned that you wouldn't even consider design as an option because you don't get such a chalked out plan as well, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot about that heart part as well. This may follow your heart, folks, with a joy in the frame and background of Aastha. This is now a Disney film. So welcome to Pixar Productions.
Oh, that is my life. For sure.
and so my audience is trolling me. Shashank is like, please take some inspiration from background too, and for your messy stuff, Siddharth. Well, thanks. My life is not a Disney film. I wish, otherwise I would put that background. But this is super exciting. And Shreya Shekhar is saying, "Wow, that is such an organic way to get into UX." Totally, totally. I think that is very different story. And one of the things that makes me want to ask you is, how much influence did college have, and what did you learn then, and how relevant was that to when you finally started working as a designer?
Absolutely. So I think both my grad school and my college, so NIFT in India, so useful. I think going to NIFT, because I specifically studied at NIFT Bangalore and I was studying their product design course, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
again, industrial design. Now product design is it means something else, right? So I don't want to
Right.
confuse people. Back then, that wasn't a thing. It taught me how to think about problems. And that has kept helping me over and over again, because it taught me how to, like, when you get a design problem, how do you really dig in and understand what really is the problem here? How do you, like, one of the exercises we would do is our teacher would make us take 100 sheets of paper. If we were designing a lamp, he would make
Mm-hmm.
us design one concept on one sheet of paper and actually literally do 100 of them, and then like pick something from the last 10 or some exercise like that, right? So it really taught me how to it taught me divergent thinking, which is so useful in life, but also as a UX designer, as a manager, it's very, very useful. So it taught me all those like basic skills of how
Mm-hmm.
to think about problems, which the kind of design we do now is very different from what I learned back then, but just how I learned to think about it is still a thing, and that has helped me throughout. Um,
Right.
and then at CalArts, when I was studying graphic design, which like I said, it was super traditional, but I think that has been super helpful also, because it really taught me how you can communicate meaning and feelings and emotions, and really like compel people to take an action
Mm-hmm.
through visual forms, just
Mm-hmm.
working with shapes and contrast and color and typography and just all of that. That's been very helpful too. So I don't think any of it was necessary. I don't think any of you need all of this or any of it to get into any field. But my main point is, I feel like no matter what I had studied, if I had studied English literature, I'm pretty sure I found something that I could apply, right? So I feel
Right.
like whatever your experiences are in life, there's usually something that you can take from it and then apply to whichever field you're going in.
Right. And it's very interesting that your design education then seems so wholesome, because first you cover, industrial design concepts, which are all about scale, mass production, you
Right.
learn things like usability, etc., and material form, limitations, constraints, and suddenly you come to this graphic style, traditional style of graphic design, which is so much inspired by art, feeling, emotions, and suddenly
Yeah.
you have this wholesome view and fundamental basis to start with, and without planning it, that's just amazing. That's just like falling into the right traps through life.
I totally agree with you. That's I always say that I don't have any UX design education, but my industrial design and graphic design education kind of makes up for it. And it
Right,
happened
right,
without like there was truly no I had no idea that I would go into UX design. But I thought I
right.
was going to become a graphic designer when I did my master's.
Right. And then asking the questions around how can you get more donations finally leads you to UX, and then you land your first job. And how did that happen? I mean, first job is always a little, weird
Yeah.
and special in a sense, like you're finally stepping out, you're putting out yourself out in the job market. What was that experience like for you?
So I always say I have two first jobs, which is a really weird thing to say, but really I have done two jobs in my life that feels like my first job. My first job was with a company called IX in Bangalore. It doesn't exist anymore, and they went through a couple of iterations. The owner is still around. He's doing stuff. His name is George Supreet. People might know of him. He does like illustration, drawing jams and stuff like that. Anyway, so when I was in college, I had decided I wanted to do graphic design and study graphic design. So I started working on a portfolio to apply to grad schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I also needed like money. Like I didn't want to take money from my parents anymore after
Right.
college. So I went to George. Somehow, I think just got to know about him from someone, and I went to him and I showed him my work. I'd been trying to teach myself graphic design. I was so bad, but I was trying to teach myself, and I showed it to him and I told him my plan, and he was so nice. He said, "Okay, here's the thing. Why don't you work with us for 6 months?" Because I was going to apply in like about 6 months or so. He said, "Why don't you work with us for 6 months? Your work is not that great right now, but I see potential. I'm going to pay you
Mm-hmm.
5,000 rupees a month.
Wow.
If you are any good, then I will increase your salary in 3 months. But for
Right.
3 months, you're only going to get 5,000 rupees a month. And I will teach you design and I will help you with your portfolio and I'll get some help." And
Right.
that was so amazing that he did that. So I literally did that. So, and by the way, in just in case someone knows him and is watching this, he increased my salary to 25,000 rupees in the second month, which was very, very generous of him.
Yeah.
But
And which year was this?
this was 2006, maybe.
Wow. And 25
Yeah,
grand is like a major salary back then.
it was amazing. I was like, I don't know what to do with this money, but I started giving because I wanted to apply to grad schools, right? He was
Right.
amazing. He's such an amazing man. So he really helped me. Like he taught me so much about working with clients, how to
Mm-hmm.
think about design. He helped me prepare a portfolio, honestly, which got me through all these like amazing schools that I wanted to get into. So
Right.
that was I only did that for 6 months though, because then I quit. I got through a school. I just wanted to spend some time at home in
Mm-hmm.
Delhi. So I moved back home, spent a few months there, then moved here. So here, my second first job, I still call it my first job because I feel like my first job was more like an internship, apprentice. Like I was just
Makes
learning.
sense. Makes sense.
But my second first job here was at this design firm called Distinct. How I got that job was um, I had prepared this portfolio and I had no idea what I was doing. My portfolio was a mixed bag of just like bizarre experimental stuff because that's the kind of school that CalArts was. And I was just literally going to different design firms in LA. And because like if you go and say, "Hey, I want a job," people usually don't respond, right? So I would just go and basically I would find out about the owner and what they do
Mm-hmm.
and basically send them an email and say, "Hey, I saw this work that you did and I loved it, and there are so many amazing things here. Can I come talk to you more about your work?" And I got through so many doors through that
Wow.
because people usually don't say no to students wanting to do that, apparently, right? So I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
through so many doors, and eventually I would be like, "Oh, so if you have any opportunities for me, I would love to work with you." Many of them said no, but Jean Marc, who owns Distinct, he was very, very generous with that. And he said, "Yeah, why don't you start working with us? Let's see how it works out. Why don't you work on a project? We'll see how it goes."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I ended up getting my second first job. And even then, I think my work was pretty crappy in the beginning because it wasn't aligned with, it wasn't commercial as it needed to be. It was very, very experimental. So I learned a lot about how to tone it down a little bit to, make it work more for the nonprofits. So it all happened because I was complimenting people and saying, "I love your work. Can we talk more about it?"
Because that doesn't happen enough, it's a powerful thing because even in chat, when I'm live streaming, I know the very fact that they're present there is like appreciation by
Yeah.
a lot of means. Thank you so much for everyone watching. Hit that like button. And but at the same time, when somebody sends you a message in chat or in DMs, "Hey, this is how this helped me out," or this helped me out, or "This is what you're doing is good, just keep that up, I really," it gives you that buzz, right? And I have met at least 3 students like that. Randomly they just appear and go like, "Hey, I just," and some of them DM like, "I'm outside your office, can I meet you?" And I met people like that. This pre-COVID times, obviously. And especially if they're students, yeah, I don't know, but it just feels like, yeah, they should be doing that kind of stuff, just like
Yeah, of
randomly
course, right?
approaching people and just going like, "Can I meet you, can I meet you, can I talk to you for 5 minutes?"
Yeah. See,
Uh,
people usually want to give back. I think the only thing I would say here, and so that I'm pretty sure that you have a similar experience, it is very easy to tell when someone is actually being real versus
hmm,
just trying to compliment you for the sake of it. Like
right.
when I was reaching out to these people, these were truly people I admired as
Hmm,
designers. So I truly admired the work that was coming out of their design firms and had
right.
been following them for a while or studied their design, actually wanted to do it. Because
Hmm,
I also get some messages and it's easy to see, it's very easy to tell when someone is actually into what you're
yeah.
doing versus they're just saying it to make a connection, right?
Right. Because I don't even know because yeah, you're right. I don't know what signals, but you can tell even in text, even where you
Yes.
can probably you can copy the exact format, but there's something about that you can tell. And if not in the first message, in the second reply, third reply, you obviously know by then like what the scene is. But most likely the opening lines are enough. Most people don't go through that effort either to make that happen. And awesome that I'm and like that I'm seeing a streak here that first it was you picking up these opportunities and making the best of them, and then it was about people that
Yeah.
played a big role in your career. And do you think that that is true for a lot of people, like that people
Oh,
matter in career?
absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like there is just, it's really hard to get anywhere without people opening doors for you and holding
Hmm.
doors open for you. Like throughout my life,
Hmm.
I am where I am because so many people trusted in me because someone has to give you the opportunity, right? Someone
Hmm.
has to give you that first opportunity. And that first opportunity happens over and over and over again. So someone has to give you the first opportunity to become a manager. Someone has to give you the first
Right.
opportunity to become a director, a designer, any of it, right? And there have been so many people in my life who have given me that opportunity that it's just something that I try to do also, just like pay it back, pay it forward.
Right.
Because everyone has for sure had that happen,
Hmm.
but it's easy to ignore that, or it's easy to think, oh, it's because I'm talented. There
Hmm.
are many talented people in the world,
True.
honestly, right?
True.
Like just being are my own measure of successful doesn't mean that, oh, it's because I'm the most talented person out there. A
Hmm.
lot of it is opportunity.
Hmm.
Yes, your hard work. Yes, your talent. A lot of it is just good fortune and the people that you meet along the way.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And just saying, Monish Reddy says, "Me follow my heart, Indian parents. We also want to follow our hearts, but not you, not you, but us, not your heart." The lamp exercise is such an industrial design thing. I know, right? A king always bringing the best people herein. Thanks, yeah. You're welcome, and thank you so much. That is awesome. Hello, Priyansh. And the Praja is rider and king is our provider. Yes, right now Aastha is being the provider, so I'm just facilitator.
Oh,
And how did Yahoo happen finally? Like even before Google, you go to Yahoo, and how did that happen? What was that like?
yes. Yes. So I might have to tell you the story of Yahoo and Google at the same time because they actually happened almost around the same time. I was at Yahoo for about 9 months. I wasn't
Hmm.
there for a long time. So what happened was when I was at Distinct, like I said, I started building websites. They started doing well, like our actual donations went up. So my boss created this.
Results.
Yeah,
Designers who make results happen.
exactly. Right. So my boss created this team for UX design. I think we still called it digital design or something like that.
Mhm.
And he made me the lead of the team, basically, because I was the only one who was, I mean, it was like a 4 people team, right? So I
Right.
was the only one who knew anything about this. So he was like, okay, well, why don't you create a team? Because now we should do it for all of our clients.
Mhm.
So I created a team. When I, at the point that I left, I was like the creative director for that team. And I'm doing this because I was like 4 years into my career. I wasn't, super senior or anything. And I had about 4 designers and one web developer working with us, right?
Mhm.
And there was this one day where I realized that it was way too early in my career to be the most senior person at something that I'm doing.
Right.
Especially because I had just self-taught all of this. Like who knew if I had any idea what was actually going on in the industry, right? It was all like we were just guessing and we were just making shit up and it would work. If it didn't work, then we would tweak our approach till it worked, right? So I just sat down and talked to my boss, Jean Mark, and we're really good friends even now. And I just said that, hey, like I love you. I love working here. I love the clients, but it's just I just need to be somewhere where I'm more junior. Like I cannot be the most senior person anymore. Like it's way too early.
Right.
So he knew someone who was an engineering vice president at Yahoo at that time. And then one of my friends from CalArts was at Google. So I started talking to, you just send the vibes out in the world. So I had just
Mm-hmm.
told people that I want to do something different. So she referred me at Google, and he referred me, my boss at that time, he referred me at Yahoo because he was helping me find something else. So I was interviewing at Yahoo and Google at the same time. I was in LA. The Yahoo position was in LA. The Google position was up in the Bay Area in
Mm-hmm.
Mountain View. And I really didn't want to move to Mountain View. So Google hiring takes a long time. I'm saying this with like thoda sharam, like it was
I've heard that. I've heard years and years.
months. Let's go with months, right? So I got my offer from Yahoo while I was still in the process at Google. And when that happened, then I was like, well, I don't really want to leave LA. So since I'm getting an offer here, let's just go with Yahoo because I'm not
Makes
that
sense.
interested in moving anyway. So that's how Yahoo happened. And I started working there, and it was such an amazing, such a cool project. I designed this like a second screen app that was used on election night, the election between
Wow.
Obama and it was so cool. It was so I don't think I've ever designed anything like that since then, because it was just so in the moment. That
Right.
app had to work for that one day and then never again. So that was pretty exciting to design something like
Right.
that.
And
Um,
it would have big impact, right? Like on that one day.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it was super fun to design. I had to learn everything about American politics. I had no idea what was going on. So it was really fun to learn. I used to sit in the newsroom
Mm-hmm.
with Yahoo News, which was amazing during elections. Just the amount of energy as results come in and the primaries are happening, and you're sitting with the journalists. It was just an amazing experience. But this is where the Google transition happens. Around the same time, I saw in 9 months, I saw four CEOs at Yahoo, because there was this
Wow.
one person, then
Right.
he resigned. There's another person who had lied on his resume, so he was fired. Then there was an interim CEO. Then Marissa Mayer came
Yeah.
over. And there was, people were just not feeling safe in their positions. I saw like 3 rounds of layoffs. So the environment was very toxic. Like people were
Mm-hmm.
just, when people don't feel safe, they don't support each other. So
Yeah.
it was just like not good. I just didn't feel good there. And then I got a call from Google saying, hey, we now have a position in LA. Are you still interested? And that's when I was like, yes, let's do it.
And it's in LA. I mean, you didn't have to move. The best part.
Exactly. So that's when I ended up switching. And that's why the Yahoo and Google timelines are pretty intertwined, and they happened around the same time or the same
Right.
year.
It's like universe was like, before all of this wraps up, this entire Yahoo thing wraps up and becomes like an ancient historic thing.
Yes.
Just take a quick look of like having four CEOs, like quickly, just this is the real thing.
Oh, it was a very interesting and bizarre experience. The thing is, the product that I worked on was still very successful, because
Hmm.
Yahoo News, Yahoo Finance, they were pretty successful actually, even up till 2 or 3 years ago, even after the rest of Yahoo had sunk. So that's why it was fun. Like I feel like I worked on a fun part of Yahoo,
Hmm.
even though at that time it was pretty downhill.
Right.
Um, just lucked out. Like I said, it's a mix of like luck and opportunities that you just happen to get.
It's hard to believe that so much luck can strike it. I think it's also about you trying, and there's so much that would have gone behind the scenes. I don't know. For me, at least, like, if you're applying to these brands, you're applying to these things to go through those interview process, to
Right.
continue to work, and while doing that, all of that takes a lot of work, a lot of focus, a lot of self-talking as well. So I think those are the hidden parts of the journey, right? Like, which I think at times we overlook. Were there any like internal struggles about self doubt? People often talk about imposter syndrome in design, and did you ever face any of those sort of issues where you were doubting will this happen or not, or is this the right direction or not?
Yeah. So, like everyone, I deal with imposter syndrome too. I feel like, like everyone, though, I have my own brand of imposter syndrome.
Right.
So, throughout my life, I've always felt like I'm reaching, I'm
Hmm.
trying to do something that I've always felt like applying to NIFT. Oh, I'm not good enough because I just came up with the idea of applying to NIFT. And I know people who study for like years to,
Hmm.
do that or NID or whatever. Same for applying to grad schools here. Same for
Hmm.
applying to Google or Yahoo or any of these places. But I've always told myself that I will try anyway. Like,
Hmm.
let's see what happens. If
Mm-hmm.
it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, that's fine too. It's better than not trying at least, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
feel like that's the mix that has worked for me. I
Mm-hmm.
always feel like I'm underqualified. Always. Like even
Mm-hmm.
now, if I apply for a position, a project, something internally, I
Right.
always feel like I'm not good enough for this. But then I still try,
Mm-hmm.
even despite that, because what's the worst thing that could happen? You're not gonna get it, and then you'll be in the
Right.
same place you are now. But at least
Right.
you would have tried and learned
Right.
something from that experience then.
I love that. I love that. I think that is something that all of us can use a reminder of once in a while. And I think you've kept it. It's very clear that is that is why luck strikes you because you're trying. It strikes people those who try at least. And so many of us would self reject, self censor, and go like, no, so I'm not good enough. I believe that, so let's not even try. Why even go there?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think it's the law of averages, right? Like if you keep
Hmm.
trying, you'll hit some of your targets. Right? So I feel like I also have a very, very high tolerance for failure. And I'm not sure
Hmm.
exactly where that comes from, but I don't mind failing at stuff. And it doesn't usually set me back a lot.
Right.
I think that's why I feel like I get lucky so much because I
Hmm.
just try. If you try 100 things, even if like two of them you hit the target, then it looks like, oh great, you did something here, right? So
Right.
like when I applied for grad schools, I applied to 10 different schools because I was just like, well, I'm just gonna like do all of it and I'm just gonna see
Right.
what happens, right?
Right.
So I feel like that has helped me out a lot, just being okay with failing and
Hmm.
like that's fine. I just try again.
That makes a lot of sense because I think even when I notice that in myself, if I have ever done that of the act of self rejection or just saying let's not try, or if I've seen other people do that where I totally believe, let's say that you may have an intern or you're talking to somebody on Discord, they're showing you their work and you go like, no, you should really try. You're like, you just keep on trying and you're gonna hit it because you have it in you and you can see that streak, but there's just there's this fear that, oh, if I fail, does that mean I'm not good enough? Does that mean etc? And taking it, and I have that habit as well, taking it for way more than it's worth.
Yeah.
That it's just one failure and it can be for so many variables and may have nothing to do with you. And once you start hiring, you realize, yeah, so many of the rejections have nothing to do with you. At times they interview a designer and figure out, oh, we didn't even need a designer, we're looking for a PM. Like so many times, and they say no, but that has nothing to do with you, right?
Yeah.
It's other people figuring out their stuff. And then we finally also learn how Google happened, which brings me to my next question. What kind of like work did you start doing at Google? What was your first project at Google like, if you can talk about it?
It's so ridiculous because I was, by this point. So, see, the other thing is, I'm actually still on a visa in the US on a work visa just because
Wow.
a green card takes forever. But back then, because I'm on a visa, so I always have to be employed, right? So, it's not like I can just quit a job and then chill and figure it out what's going to happen later. So, when the Yahoo Google thing was happening, Google contacted me. This was in LA, and I was like, that's great, let's do it. And then I gave my notice at Yahoo. And then, so
Mhm.
this is how bizarre this is. And then I was like, wait, what am I going to be doing at Google? Like, what am I doing? Which team is it on? And I realized it was on ads. And my first reaction was like, what what is ads? Like, why do they need a designer on ads? What's going on here? So I asked the recruiter, and by that time it was like almost too late to. And see, this is now Google is different. Now they tell you which project you'll be working on. Back then, you got through
Mhm.
the hiring process first, then they did a team match. That's the
Wow.
in some locations, but
Right.
that was the standard back then. So
Right.
so I was in this situation where I was like, well, okay, what if I don't want to do this? And the recruiter told me that is the only position they have in LA. I could either take that or take up a position in Mountain View, or I could just wait. And then whenever something else opens up in LA, because for 1 year, your candidacy is valid at Google
Right.
if you get through the hiring process. And because I couldn't do that because I was on a visa, so I was just like, well, let me just take the ads position, whatever, we'll figure it out. We'll see what
Right.
it is. Um, so I was hired as the sixth designer, I think, to work on AdWords back then. Now it's
Right.
called Ads. It was a very small design team, and now it's a huge team with many many people. It was really interesting. I was working on a tool called Keyword Planner.
I
If
I have
anyone.
used that word.
Okay, well, so that was the tool. That was the first product that I had designed back in the day. Keyword Planner. It was in progress. It hadn't launched yet, basically.
That's one of the most powerful tools in SEO research and etc. Wow, Asta. Can't believe we are
Yes,
meeting the designer of Keyword Planner, folks.
yes.
Behold this moment.
Oh, so bizarre. I designed like the first version ever of Keyword Planner. And I remember that the product manager, he just sat me down and he told me like everything. And he was like, well, so we are taking these two keyword tool and another traffic estimator, we're merging them, we're going to create Keyword Planner. And
Right.
then I sat there, and at the end of the hour, I said, what is a keyword? Like, what is it? And then he goes, oh, don't worry about it. It's just like a row. It's just a row in a table. So you just have to figure out like how can people select rows in a table. And that to me was like, wow, they have really low expectations for what a designer does. So that's
Right.
so I was the first designer ever to be hired in the LA office. Well, at least at that point, there was no other designer. I
Wow.
was working with 25 engineers who were building Keyword Planner, and they had
Damn.
I know. They had already built something. So I had to go in and basically say, this is crap and we need to completely rebuild this from scratch. Um, so it was also very bizarre. I was one of three women on the team total. I was definitely the first brown person on the team because it was a very small team back then. And they didn't know what a UX designer did at all.
Right.
So they would just like engineers, they wouldn't even talk to me. Like they would literally not even look me in the eye. They had no idea what I was going to do there. So it was
Wow.
the very, very bizarre beginning of my career at Google, where I was designing the super technical tool with no knowledge. And people thought I was an idiot. Not, they didn't think I was an idiot, but they were just like, why do we need a designer? We've been building this. It's totally fine. So yes, that was how I started my career there.
Wow, that is fascinating. You just hit the ground running. And as Balaji was saying, Aastha Keyword Planner OP. You should change your username from Aastha Hearts to Aastha Passer to Aastha Keyword Planner.
Oh boy. I know a lot of people feel very passionately about the tool, both good and bad. That's why I
Right.
typically don't tell people this that I designed for. I have to say now what's online, like my team designed it, but
Right, right,
we have very, very talented designers
right,
on the team designing the newest version of Keyword Planner. What I
right.
designed was like back in the day, we used to call it like jokingly, I called it 50 Shades of Gray because it was like light gray and dark gray and medium gray, just all of those together.
And there was some blue throw in there once in a while. I remember that era. But what a powerful and turning tool that from a business point of view as well for Google AdWords that was, because it formalized the way of thinking, the way people think about ads, targeting and segmentation, and a whole, like, in a sense, if you think about it, that is the pattern the rest of these ad tools and platforms followed, because Google was one of the first to crack that at that scale. So you were essentially, did you realize that you were defining industry patterns in that moment?
No, I
Think
did.
about it.
But you know what happened? So if you like look me up in Google Scholar or something, which is so bizarre to me, I
Mhm.
have a lot of design patterns that are all for Keyword Planner, and it's bizarre because design patterns for the most case are like, oh, there's a button and a line, and if you click on a button, the line expands. Like that's it. That's the pattern. Done, right?
Right.
And I have so many for Keyword Planner because I actually didn't realize it while I was designing it. But then 2 years down the line, we started seeing, I won't name competitors, but
Mm.
I started seeing like literally our Keyword Planner tool was copied exactly pixel by a competitor, to the point where once I added an icon to a thing which I know was like a jokey icon, like it wasn't the right icon to use, and they copied it. They business, and I said, what the hell? Like, what is going on here? So that's when I realized what was really going on here, and that's when
Yes.
we started doing a bunch of like design patterns and stuff.
And so humble. Look at this. So humble. She didn't. I mean, think about it, folks. That this is one of its first kind tools, first ever in the industry. Google bringing this at this scale. Asa designs the first version, and then literally every ad network trying to chase Google, or be the second number two in the ad industry, online ad industry, copy that tool over, and that became the basic pattern now in ad tools. Even from Facebook Ad Manager to Instagram, Snapchat, other ad manager, all of them follow those patterns, the basic fundamental patterns, and that's whom we are talking to today, to Aastha, who designed those
That is
patterns.
very kind of you, but you know how I look at it? This goes back to our previous conversation. Like, I feel this is
Uh,
not doesn't speak to my talent or anything. It speaks more to my good fortune. Because see, if I hadn't done it, someone else would have done it. It's not like it
For
wouldn't have
sure.
existed.
But we still talking to you. It doesn't change the fact.
I appreciate it.
And people are going like, wow, I like how Asta was not at all hesitant to ask the most basic question at that time. Yes, that is very, very. I would think 20 times for sure. I would like take somebody over the tea, but I don't know how tea works in India. I would take somebody over the tea and go like, keyword kya hota hai? Just sneak it in there. And thank you for doing this. Thank you, Akshata, but for joining us. And this been long pending. Balaji Rao says AdWord is a cash cow for Google for sure. Rajat says designer with domain knowledge or general designer with design skills. We'll come to questions. There are many questions, Rajat. Bahut OP story. Damn. Okay, people are loving this story for sure, for sure. And this brings us to the next question. That at Google is where you made the switch from being an individual contributor and
Mhm,
having your own role to actually starting to manage people.
mhm.
How did that happen? And what was your experience like?
Yes. So it's actually really interesting because at Distinct, I wasn't a manager, but I was a creative director. And because it was a small firm, because the
Mhm.
agencies are just different, right? Like they don't have that much structure. So it was pretty
Right.
flat. But I was responsible for the work output of certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way agencies run, I was
Mm-hmm.
very hands on. Like the culture was you would stand behind someone's screen and be like, oh, move it 10 pixels to the right
Right.
and 10 pixels to the left, right? So that was that. But then I started working at Google. Keyword Planner launched, it did well. There was also Display Planner, which doesn't exist anymore because advertising was pretty different back then. So
Mm-hmm.
I designed that. I designed some other stuff for Google Ads. And then we realized that we in this space of planning, of like doing planning for your campaigns, we needed more products out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we started expanding the engineering teams and the design team and the PM teams and everything. So I wasn't the manager, but I helped my manager who was in
Mm-hmm.
Mountain View hire
Mm-hmm.
two more designers, and they were doing their work. So my engineering partner or the engineering lead for planning, he basically took me aside after one of the meetings where a new designer was presenting something, and he said, hey, since you just understand things so well, can you review this work before it comes to us? Because I feel like it's a waste of my time, because I can tell that you also don't agree with what's
Mm-hmm.
being presented. So why don't you just like talk to this person first? So I set up like some sort of like a unofficial leadership, like basically I ended up taking on this leadership role where I was just like guiding the other two designers a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? So their work would be just more better suited for executive reviews.
Right.
So my manager noticed that and he said, hey, why don't you just manage them if you're doing this? And I can see that you're doing a good job here. So I basically just like stumbled into
Mm-hmm.
management. It wasn't something that I went after.
Right.
I was kind of playing that role anyway. So my manager just said, well, why don't you just manage them? Let's just go with that. So that's how I got into management,
Right.
managing those people at first. And from then on, our team, the planning team, just expanded and we had to do a lot more. So I
Mm-hmm.
ended up like hiring more people, building a team, creating managers on my team, just all of that over the course of
Right.
6 years or so.
Wow. Wow. And at any point did you feel like, wow, this is like, this is, did you like, there's always a shock, at least from people I've spoken to, of your work not being the thing that, counts for your success or your, performance. Did that ever happen to you? Like where you kind of like struggle or had to make that mental switch consciously, or it was that still natural in coming?
I didn't feel it day to day, honestly. So the way promotions work at Google is very unique for people who might not know. You basically you nominate yourself for promotion and you write this assessment for why you should be promoted, and then your peers write it, and then it goes to like a third party committee, people who
Mm-hmm.
don't know you at all, and they review your packet and decide yes or no. So to get promoted, you have to prove that you have been operating at the next level for at least the last 9-ish months.
Wow.
So that's when they promote you. It's not, because promotions at Google are based on evidence,
Mhm.
not potential, basically. So
Interesting.
yeah, so while I was doing all of this and transitioning day to day, I did not have that realization. But then when I went up for promo from level, like from senior designer to the next level up,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's when I was a senior designer, I switched to management. So when I
Mm-hmm.
officially went up for promotion, I didn't get it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that that was because I had not quite figured out how to talk about my impact in this
Mm.
new way. It just did
Right.
not come across in that packet that was reviewed by a third party. So I went up again in six
Mhm.
months and wrote a whole packet again. And those 6 months between those two like promo attempts was when I really understood what had happened here. Like my role was completely different now
Right.
than it used to be even like 9, 10 months ago. And what did this mean for me? How do I talk about my accomplishments? How do I think about my accomplishments? So it took me like that long to really make sense of it, because I had to communicate in a way that it would make sense to like a third party.
Right.
But day to day, because it was so organic and it happened over time, I actually didn't feel a difference.
That is awesome. That is awesome. You again making the best of the the environment around you. Awesome. And this brings me to my one of the things that I really wanted to ask. 8 years. 8 years and counting at Google. That is like insane. Like I know,
Yeah.
like I am known for doing long things, and my longest was 6 years, and I'm like 8 years. Can't imagine what keeps you at Google. What is the secret? How does Google keep you there? Like,
Yes. So we have this annual survey, Google Guys, and one of the questions in there is, I plan to be at Google 1 year from now. For the last 8 years, I've been saying no. But I'm still here. Why I say no is just because I'm like, oh, who knows? I don't think so. I might want to do something else. It's been 5 years. It's been 6 years. It's been 7 years. And yet I'm always here. So this might be because I came from Yahoo and the environment at Yahoo was so toxic when I was there. The first thing that I noticed at Google, and I think people still notice it, is just how nice everyone is at Google. Like
right.
I truly mean this. Googlers are very nice people because Google is very relationship based
Hmm.
for the most part, and just how our systems are set up, you really need each other to succeed.
Right.
So people are really, really nice, but also really smart. But more than that, curious about
Hmm.
stuff. I
Right.
feel like I have become not smarter, but like more curious about stuff ever since I've started working at Google. Like I ask more questions about just things in life. I'm more curious about how to just self improvement
Right.
is a amongst many people. And at the same time, people are just super collaborative. Everyone is like has really good intent. I've had like microaggressions happen against me, but I usually call it out and people are like, oh, I apologize, I'm so sorry, I should fix that, and then they fix it, which is amazing. We recently had someone join from another really big company, I won't name who. He's a director, and I was interviewing him, like doing a fireside chat, and I asked him, so what is the first thing you notice about Google? And he said, well, where I come from, people were really smart, but here people are really smart and really nice. And I was just like, just hearing that again, I was like, yes, it's not just me, a lot of people really are. So that is the biggest thing. The people are just amazing. And listen, people are people everywhere. It's not
True.
like Googlers are any different than the outside world. But because of the systems that Google has put in place for how
Hmm.
we work together, it just brings out the best in everyone when it comes to like interpersonal relationships. The second thing is because I have just constantly grown in all different ways, right? So I was not only have I been at Google for 8 years, I was on the same team for the last 8 years. I was
Wow.
on the planning team. Like my team was, I actually switched teams in March. So up till March, it was still my team that was designing Keyword Planner. And
Wow.
ultimately, I felt like I was in a place where I, again, wasn't growing anymore on the same
Hmm.
team. And it had been 8 years. And that's when I switched to a different team.
Right.
So I feel like I've just constantly grown and haven't really felt a need to go elsewhere because of that.
Right. That is just amazing to hear too. Usually people flock to the brand, but for me personally speaking, what you're talking about of people being smart and nice and and collaborative, that is far more exciting because you don't I always like to say you don't meet brand every day. You meet people every day. You work with people every day. That's why it's the people and the culture that matters a lot, because that's going to decide what kind of work output you give or your team gives as well. And speaking of you switching in March, which team did you switch to? And we hear that you are hiring.
Yes, yes, yes. So in March, I switched to the Google support team, which basically means we do support operations and support, basically customer support, internal support, all the platforms, the whole ecosystem of customer support at Google. So that's what our team does, and we do it for pretty much everything at Google. So except for cloud, we do all of Google. So
Right.
YouTube to like self-driving cars to ads to hardware, Gmail, Drive, Maps, I don't know what else, GPay,
Right.
Play, right? Like basically it's all of it. And I switched because we had a super challenge on that, like a super big challenge on the horizon for the team. We are
Mm-hmm.
basically like heavily investing in support at Google, because here's the thing: if you really think about it, support at Google started as a way to support our ads customers,
Right.
right? Because
Right. Right.
they're paying customers and they have support needs. But in the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of other products have really grown at Google. Like Google
Yeah.
Pay India alone has brought like billions of customers to
Mm-hmm.
Google, right? Because of the population of India, as an example. Um, so with so many products needing support, our old ways of doing support were just not going to work anymore.
Right.
So this challenge of like taking on this UX team and really building up the team, thinking about this big 3 to 5 year strategy,
Right.
and like setting the foundation for that strategy. So all of that happened this year and it went really well. I'm super excited for that. Because of that, we actually got a permission to hire a whole bunch of people next year, because
Wow.
we need a lot of resources to do what we really want to do.
Right.
So yes, we started a team in Hyderabad last year
Awesome.
because, like I said, we are just, support is just growing so much outside of North America. It just didn't make sense to only have a
Right.
team in North America. So
Right.
now we have teams in 3 locations:
Just
Bay
so many
Area.
YouTubers in India asking for support.
Exactly. Like we definitely need like a support team in India. So
Right.
that has happened now. Like we have established the team. We have
Right.
hired our first 5 UXers on the team, and
Right.
we
Right.
have goals to double that this year and then
Wow.
double that next year. So hopefully be at 2025 UXers in 2 or 3 years or so.
That is crazy in Hyderabad team, and that you are hearing it here, folks. Make sure I am excited, like for you folks. Like you gotta prepare and apply. You better be preparing those portfolios and getting the links ready for Astha to look at them. And you mentioning the team is in Hyderabad, and how's the work and office situation with COVID and all?
Yeah, so right now, like no one is working from the office. So
Right.
last thing that Sundar had announced was it's all external, so I don't have any extra information.
Right.
But basically, till June, at least, no one has to go into the offices. After
Right.
that, there might be a phased coming back to office or something. Like Google is pretty good about
Right.
that, right? Like we're going to
Right.
follow
Of
all the
course.
protocols and stuff. But yeah, so actually, this is really interesting. I have to say, when I told people that we were building a team in Hyderabad, people were like, why? They were telling me like, oh, you should go for Bangalore. Like it's just going to be much harder to build a team in Hyderabad. But we've been pretty successful so far. We have a lot of operations teams in Hyderabad. So we have a lot
Right.
of like call center agents, for example, our support agents in
Mm-hmm.
Hyderabad. So even though the team doesn't work directly with them, it's definitely
Right.
like more of a customer's team right now.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to centralize our team in Hyderabad, and we're building this whole new office. It is a beautiful office. I've seen the plans, and I'm very jealous of the Hyderabad team. Okay, no joke. I have traveled to so many Google offices in the world. The Hyderabad Google office has the best food.
Right.
It's just the best cafe in the whole world. So it's a great office, and I'm so glad that we are able to attract talent from different cities
Right.
so far. So
and
if
and
people are
people are willing to move as well. I've realized that younger people are willing to move more because they want to get out of their hometown, etc., and live an independent life and start building that norm as well.
yes.
So super exciting opportunity for people. And how does one apply, and what kind of people are you looking for?
Yes, so we are definitely looking for designers right now, researchers very soon. So the best way to apply is whenever something comes up, I usually post the link for the external job posting. So actually, if you go online right now, you should be able to find the designer opening right now on the Google career site. So you're welcome to apply through that.
Mhm.
Or if you are on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter, and I'll post the opening there, and you can either DM me or reply to my tweet or any of those options, or apply through the link, however you want to do it. Um, I
Right.
post on LinkedIn, but I'm not very active on LinkedIn. I will be honest. Like I am, if it's just a one-way communication for me, I just post there and then it disappear forever. So LinkedIn is probably not the best way to apply.
Awesome. The links the links to her profile are in the description and in the chat. I've spammed the link, so you can go follow Aastha on Twitter and make sure you retweet the stream thing as well. And just a quick favor before we proceed to all the people who are watching, listen up, listen up. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, and take a screenshot if you're liking this, and put it on Instagram and tag me and Aastha so we know that you're liking this and having fun. And
Oh, that's a
then,
good idea.
yeah,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
we're
please
gonna,
do that.
and we also need to invite Aastha for many more fun sessions like meme review maybe someday. We should definitely do meme review, sit together and just look at some design memes and
That
just
sounds
react at them.
amazing.
Write meme review in chat if you want to see that, folks. Write meme review in chat. uh, Soham says, have to share this almost all the time. When Asta says Google, my Google assistant starts automatically. I think
Oh,
needs some kind of fix maybe. Assistant knows to listen to Googlers.
I have to tell you a story. My dog's name is Gustav. And because, dogs just listen to the beginning and the end of words. So whenever I'm talking to our home assistant, sometimes Gustav thinks I'm talking to him. And
Mhm.
when the assistant answers back, he gets really scared because he's just like, what is going on? So I did not, if I should have thought about naming my dog Gustav.
That is scary place, Gustav plays song and he, like, I'm sorry, but does not compute.
Exactly.
All right, meme review is happening. We're gonna invite Asta for our next meme review. You must bring your own memes. Is the only rule there that you make. But you must bring some memes. Memes we will bring, and some memes we want to see your favorite design memes as well. Now we move on to the last question. We figured out how to apply, how to do different kind of stuff. I have some rapid fire questions, Asta, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
I'm stealing this idea from Ryder OP and calling it Tez Arg instead of rapid fire. Let's do Tez Arg round, where
Yeah.
we start with your three favorite books.
My three favorite books. So, ego is the enemy, obstacle is the way. This is really boring. I'm going to say a fun one. Silent Patient.
Okay, Silent Patient. All right, favorite movie.
Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge.
Yes. Bollywood.
I am basic. I am telling. I am all about like DDLJ, Andaz Apna Apna, and Joji Toi Sikandar, and Love Actually. Like I am that Legally Blonde. I am that person.
Wow, that's like hardcore pre-90s almost era. Like, okay, what series are you watching these days?
The Office, always. On
Always.
repeat.
Okay. Nothing on Queen's Gambit. Nothing. We play chess on this.
Oh no, I watched it. It's really nice. It's just like, usually I just go back to the office after watching whatever. I did watch the Queen's Gambit. It was a really good show.
Did it make you want to play chess a bit?
I am not really good at playing chess because I'm not a very patient person.
Okay. You can play
I
bullet.
already
You can play
tried.
bullet.
That is true. Yes, I should try that.
Because we're planning to have designers on board. So, like, we love a basic queen, Akhil says. This is really informative and exciting. Thanks for this. Thank you for joining in, Vishal. Good to see this. And two more rapid fire questions. Actually, the one rapid fire question and one question that I like to ask all people and their origin stories. The last rapid fire is: are you a night person or a day person? And have you been able to switch?
I used to be a night person. As I'm getting older, I'm becoming more and more of a day person.
Don't tell me this also is happening naturally, seamlessly, without you making an effort.
I don't think it's happening naturally. I think it's actually happening more since I have a team in Hyderabad now. So I have to do early morning calls. That's why it's happening.
Right. And what time is it for you right now? I think it'll be 10:30 or something.
It is 11:30 right now.
Holy crap, 11:30 at night.
Yeah. I usually go to bed after midnight, so it's totally fine.
Awesome. And the last question that I have, Aastha, is what would you tell younger Aastha if you're talking to younger Aastha today? What is the one advice that you'd give her?
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like there is nothing that comes to mind that feels like, oh, I shouldn't have done it this way, or like, I feel like I would just reaffirm something that I've always believed in, which is just follow your heart and optimize for day-to-day happiness. I might be repeating myself. I might have said this in the round table too, but I
That's
really feel
fun.
like Like I've always optimized for, am I happy with what I'm doing every single day? And versus thinking about what is the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan or what's going to happen later. And
Right.
just continuing to optimize for that day-to-day happiness has served me really well. So I would go back and tell myself, because sometimes you feel like, am I doing the right thing here? Like, is this really what I want to do? And I'm so glad that I still did it despite those doubts. But I would just go back and tell myself to not have those doubts.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I think that's something I'm going to also put a reminder once a month to remind myself, because that's a really good formula. That's a really good formula. Akhil says King feeling guilty that he's a hardcore night person. Oh, no, nah, yeah, my trainer makes me feel guilty more about it. He's going to kill me if I don't sleep at night. So Saturday nights are the only things I get. Kishore Rajput said this is very informative and interesting. King, I have sent you an email in reply for a LinkedIn post. Would be glad for all right. Plays chess queen. Okay. King plays chess queen. Okay. I don't know what that means, but some kind of tricky thing. Once again, thank you so much, Aastha, for joining us. This was an amazing conversation. Is there anything else you want to plug in before we call it a day?
I want to plug in basically you, Siddharth. I think it's so amazing what you're doing, honestly, because it's so
Hey,
cool,
thank
right? Like
you.
there is definitely this UX community in India, but I feel like you're doing such important work of bringing people together and providing resources to people. And it is really a thankless job. I will say that, because just creating content, like yes, people are people liking your post and subscribing. I know that that's good, but still,
Yeah.
I know how much effort goes into creating content, and
Yeah.
I'm just so happy to see that there is someone who's doing
Hey,
this
thank you.
hard work. I don't know, folks. If you don't do this, trust me, it's super hard work. I know this because I was a social media influencer with my dog's accounts, and I just deleted the account because it was too much. I could not keep up with it. And we only had like a couple of thousand followers or something, right? So I don't know. It's amazing that you do this. So, if folks who are watching, please like, subscribe, share for all of Siddharth's content, not just this, because this is very important work. And I'm so glad that someone is doing it.
Thank you so much, Asa. That's really so kind of you, man. That's seriously so kind of you. Thank you so much, and thanks to the audience for joining in, tuning in. So many of you, we just kept rising up. 62 people watching is
Oh,
like peaking right now, and so you gotta hit that like button right away. Hit that like button so more people can discover this amazing story, Asa story that is so inspiring, and so many people can learn so much from it. And can we get to choose the product we want to work on, or it depends on the team, Asta, or in Google?
like Google,
People.
you can choose. Yeah. So
All right.
once you get through the hiring process, it actually gets really interesting. Sometimes there's like a bidding war where multiple teams want you. So you can like talk to the different teams and make a call then.
Mhm. Is there a way to get an internship at Google?
Yes. So we do have, it's the same career site. When we have internship or internship hiring open, you will start seeing interns positions there. It's the same application process.
Awesome. So that answers all the questions. Honestly, Siddharth, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much, Shubham. Yes, Shadow, hit that like, make sure you subscribe. And we're going to call it today. Once again, Asa, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful story with us. And thank you for letting us know about the awesome openings in the Hyderabad team, the team size you're going to multiply. I'm looking forward to so many exciting people from the community applying for the roles and making it through. It'll be awesome to like interview them someday and go like, how did you start at Google? Oh, I watched Aastha's interview on your channel. That's gonna be a good round trip.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you so much. It's always so nice to talk to you. It just makes my heart so happy. You're
Same.
such a warm
The feeling is
personality.
mutual. The feeling is mutual. The thing in your background, that's how you make me feel. There's so
Oh,
much joy.
and thank you to everyone who's watching. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, audience. Thank you once again, and hit that like button. And we'll see you later. I'll see you tonight, today evening. There's some change in plan. I'm gonna post about it on Discord. We are streaming with Madhuri today evening, and we are going to build a design portfolio live on
Wow.
the stream from scratch. So come join us for that, and we'll probably sneak in some portfolio review in between later on. So once again, thank you so much. See you later. Good night, Shabak. Oh, good day, and uh, yeah, good day. All right, see you. I'm not used to doing this in the morning.